Hi guys, so I'm at the end of my project now in self-paced mastery. It's been a really long time since I've made one of these vlog videos, so I just wanted to put out what my results were basically. I've had laryngitis for the last 3 weeks, so I've got no voice. I was hoping it would be a bit stronger than it is now, but we'll see how we go. So I won't go too much into the how I actually did the project because that's in previous videos, but my big question was the effect of self-paced mastery on academic outcomes and students' self-concept. It was an A-B comparison between two topics with a Year 9 class. This is a presentation that I gave to my faculty, so I'll just use that. So it looks fancy, but basically this was the online learning journey. The students were going down the centre aisle or the core track to learn the topic at their own pace, with easier remedial activities on this side and harder extension activities on this side. So they could choose how they worked through that, and then there were mastery stops, which are formative assessments that they had to display mastery of, which was 75% mark. They watched videos, they did tasks, each of them had a little video explanation to go with it. This is what some of the mastery checks looked like. So the other thing that I looked at was the self-concept. Also the thing that I looked at was self-concept. So I measured it using the academic self-description questionnaire, which had all these sorts of questions in it. Now there are three things that were looked at in this questionnaire. So school subjects, which I put into what I've called a academic self-concept. General things. So overall, most things I do turn out well. So that's I've called my general self-concept, and stuff that's specific to science, and that's the scientific self-concept. And I measured that at the start of the control topic, between the control and the test topic, and at the end of the test topic. For academic outcomes, I had pre to post unit topic tests. So I looked at the growth, as well as a medium term retention test that I had, which was 5-6 weeks after we'd finished the test topic. So just to see if what they'd retained. And student perceptions I looked at with a quiz at the end, and I did interviews with some focus groups. So let's get into my results. So looking at the pre-test to post-test, there was a slightly smaller increase in the test topic waves than there was in the control topic, which is not great, but the statistical analysis says that wasn't statistically significant. So really there's no change in that pre versus post between the two methods. So that's all right, I suppose. Then looking at that medium-term retention, we do see a change. And I've split it up into multiple choice, short answer and total here. But you can see that the the control topic is significantly lower than the test topic. So they're getting about or a bit over 10% increase in that medium-term retention. And that is statistically significant. So that's really good. So even though at a topic test basis, so when they're actually in the topic between the start and the end, they don't learn more, but the stuff that they do learn gets retained. It would seem from their starter. The question is why? Why would that be the case? And this is a quote from one of the interviews that I did of a student. And they're basically saying that there's less pressure to understand things the first time. So rather than something be explained and have to actually work with that to get through whatever the task is, you can take your time in the class to make sure that you understand something before you move on. And you can revisit things so that you can understand it rather than just pushing through the work, which is interesting and kind of makes sense. And the other thing about that retention could be just the timing of how the students actually learned it. So one student talked about how they could, the work that they did, they could cater for how they felt in class. So some classes that were really energetic and good to go and did hard things. And some days when it was like period 6 and they were tired, they could just do other things so that they were actually able to pace themselves to how they actually felt. Getting to the mastery checks, In the test, in the control topic, they didn't have to get that or display mastery, and this is and in the test topic they did before they had to move on. So saw a huge increase in the first, and this is just the first attempt for the mastery stops, but a huge increase. So this could be for a couple of reasons. It could be that students came to these mastery topics feeling ready, that they were actually able to demonstrate mastery in them, when these topics, because it was I dictated when we did them, it was all right, put your books away, we're having a test on this now. So that could be the case, that they were ready for them, or it could just be that by saying, no, you have to get a good mark in this, students are more motivated to get a decent mark. But I thought that was interesting. And so those mastery checks, the students found them really well, really good, because they were that formative assessment, or constant formative assessment. They were able to work out what they understood and what they didn't understand. So as far as the self-concept goes, we can see, and I'll look at these individually in a sec, but we can see that the academic self-concept stayed same as it was. However, the general self-concept and the scientific self-concept both increased across the time. Now this middle one here I found that they were all lower for that one. And I think that that's because that was done on the first day back after holidays, so first day of term. So the students probably weren't in the mood to be getting, or weren't feeling good about being back at school, is what I'm putting that down to. But we see this increase, which is good. Okay, so individually, so for the general self-concept, we see more students that are strongly positive and less that are negative about themselves as people, I suppose. Academic self-concept didn't really change. We saw, in fact, less that were strongly positive and less that were negative. So no real trend there, which makes sense because this is like 5 weeks of one class. It's not like we can change how they feel about school as a whole, just based on this one thing. And the scientific self-concept we also saw increase. So significantly less strongly negative, more that were positive, more. So that looks good. So, yeah, as I said, the scientific self-concept increased. The general self-concept increased, which is interesting, that they feel better about themselves as people, correlated to how they feel about science and their ability in science. Now, I wonder if this could be that it's situational, in that if this test was given, or this quiz was given to students in a maths class or an English class, whether that how they feel about themselves would have come across as well, or whether it's just because they're saying good things about science, so therefore they feel better about themselves. I'm not quite sure about that. So why is this self-concept increasing? So we had most of the students enjoyed it. So between loved it and hated it, we've got more up this end. And again, more up this end would like to use it more in the future, which is positive. I think that the big thing here about that self-concept is ownership of their learning. So by having the ownership of the learning, they actually increase how they feel about their ability in the subject. And this was shown in one of the questions I asked, do they feel that they have control over their learning? And we can see a huge increase in that. So going to the amount that disagree with that statement being very, very low. And on the flip side, about learning being forced onto them, while it's about 50-50 in the control, once we get to the end, the vast majority of students disagree or strongly disagree with that statement, that they've got, that learning's not forced on them and they do have ownership of that learning. And I think that that's the key for this, leading to that increase in self-concept. And that ownership of learning meant that students were actually proud, even if they didn't go as well in a topic, they were proud of themselves because they had that ownership, so they weren't a passive consumer of their education, but an active participant, which is something that we really aim for as teachers. I'll go into these in a different video, but yeah, that's an overview of my results. At some point in time, I'll get my paper out. That's got a bit more of the details and the numbers and my thoughts about it, but yeah, that's the basics. Peace out.